Welcome to another tying session. Um, this is Bill Frangos. I'm on YouTube at FishGod1, and today I'm going to be tying a jigged rabbit hair leech. You can see I've got a size 8 jig hook on the vise. This is a Firehole 516 size 8. I've got a 4mm tungsten slotted bead in place. I'm going to show you the slot there. What I'm going to do is utilize this down angle towards the eye. And if you notice, the eye is sideways as opposed to level. That's what jig hooks typically have. If you put that slot down below, this bead will slide down onto that angle, which is precisely where you want it. I'm going to go ahead and use some lead wire. This is hairline lead wire. You can use lead free. This is 0.02 lead wire. It's about the diameter of the hook shank. If you look at that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically wrap this forward. I'm going to go ahead and I put about 8 turns on there. Helicopter it off, and then jam it up under the bead. That makes the bead cock up and kind of locks it in place. I'm going to go ahead and helicopter off the back end. Make sure that's jammed in there good and tight. Next, I'm going to put a thread dam back behind the lead. So I'm going to start my thread, take it over the top, and start wrapping. Start my thread, wrap back. Go ahead and trim off my tag end. I'm going to wrap this forward, come up behind the thread dam, and what I'm doing here is forming a little ramp. And once I've got that jammed up there, that lead can't go anywhere. And then I'm just going to do a couple of wraps over because we're going to be wrapping a quick body over the top of this with some tinsel. Use a few materials you may or may not have. One of them will be a UV finish that will add in the durability to this fly. I'm going to come back to the end here. I'm going to go ahead and tie in. This is some Vivas, and it's kind of a rainbow looking tinsel, which is all well and good. That's what we're going to do the body in. I'm going to take off a strip of that off the spool. And you can use any color you want, any color combinations you want. Today I'm going to tie a green, olive green rabbit strip on this hair leech. And the body's going to have a little bit of flash. That's the only thing that's going to have flash in this is the body. I'm going to go ahead and just basically attach that. What I do is I could do a pinch wrap here to attach it, or I can just tuck this under. Let me get this in my hand position. I'm going to tuck that under at about a 45-degree angle, and when I lift my thread, it'll trap it. See how it trapped it? Then I can just wrap forward at this point, and I can lay that down. I try to make it to where I don't have to trim any more than I have to. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this from the back, and basically doing touching turns. Cover up any thread that's hanging out. And if you wanted to wrap this around the bend a little bit, you could. It won't make any difference. I really don't think the body on this fly makes a whole lot of difference other than adding a little flash to the fly. And maybe a little color if that's what the fish are seeking. I fished a version of this fly yesterday, and at one of yesterday was February 1st. I fished it on one of the ponds that the ice had gone out on. We've had a string of warm weather here on the western slope of Colorado. And so when the ice goes out, leeches tend to do really well. So I fished one of these yesterday, and they were short striking it a little bit, which occurs depending on the length of your rabbit strip. And I had shortened it up pretty well, and I was still getting a lot of short strikes. They were just being a little bit picky. I'm just going to cinch that down with a couple of wraps over the top and one in front to lock it. Okay, 2 in front. Then I'm going to take some UV glue, and I'm using Loon. You can use whatever you really feel confident with. This UV clear fly finish is a thin. If you really don't like it to run much, you can use a thicker. I find thin works real good. It's easier for me to work with. It smooths it out much faster if you don't put too much on. And I'm not squeezing the bottle now. I'm taking what I've already squeezed out and just making sure it gets all the way around to all of the tinsel. If you do find a spot that looks dry and you can't quite get anything there, squeeze a little bit more out, smooth it around. And you can see my little color backing just kind of took a little slip. It occurs. Put that back up. Hopefully it'll hold on for the rest of the video. There we go. Now I'm going to take a UV light, and I have a UV laser. It's pretty small, simple, easy to carry, and you put that UV light on there, and you can see a little purple dot, and this basically cooks that to where it's no longer liquid, it becomes solid. So now this is like using head cement that you can dry immediately. The thin will actually soak in and get in between the crevices, but you can see there's no residue on my finger. I mean, it's dry. So that's kind of a nice thing if you're tying and in a hurry. This fly, by nature, is going to swim with the hook point up. okay? So it will swim in that position, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and measure out a piece of rabbit hair. And I'm going to take, I've got a Magnum rabbit strip. I normally tie these with just a regular, but being a good size hook, I'm going to use a pretty good sized rabbit strip. I'm going to measure that about twice the length of the hook. So there's one, there's two. I'm going to go ahead and strip the hair back. If you wet your fingers, you can pull back, and you see how you can now see the skin in there. And then you can line that up straight if you want, just by putting your scissors in and pulling the hair up. Easier said than done right now. I'm just going to basically strip back to where I've got bare hide on the hair side. Then I'm going to take my other pair of scissors that I use for materials, cut straight across. And this is the rabbit strip we're going to use. I'm going to go ahead and trim off right at the end I just cut. Trim off a little of the rabbit fur. You can save that for later if you do a lot of dubbed rabbit. And you see it's kind of a bare hide right there, as opposed to the remainder of it. I'm going to tie in that bare hide upside down, because this fly is going to ride upside down. On the back end, where I have a straight cut, I'm just going to trim this to a point. And it'll give it a little taper. So it'll taper off a little bit. Okay. Now that we've got our material prepared, I'm going to take a little bit of super glue, and I'm just using some Loctite super glue. It's a brush on. I'm going to put a little dab. Little dab will do you. Put a little dab right here. And then I'm going to take that rabbit strip, kind of lay it about halfway, because this is going to wrap over the top. And then I'll put a couple of really good firm wraps in there. Rabbit swims so good in the water. And that's the only place we're going to attach that. So this is going to really give a lot of wiggle. You've got the body underneath that'll give it the flash, but it's going to give it a lot of wiggle. Okay, last but not least, we're going to put a little collar on this to cover up our thread wraps. And you can put as much thread or as little thread as you want. Once you got that super glue on there, it's not going anywhere. I'm going to, basically, if you haven't done a dubbing loop, I'm going to show you how to do one. Let's see if I can't zoom out a little bit. There we go. What I'm going to do now is create a dubbing loop. I could do this either of two ways. I could split the thread or create a dubbing loop. I'm just going to create a dubbing loop here. So I've got my finger in the thread. I've gone back over the thread. I'll do a tie down. Then I'll go around my finger a couple times. And normally it's a little easier to do. I've got a camera between me and the fly so you can see it from my perspective. I've got that loop open. Go ahead and put a different finger in there. That way I can close this loop fairly easily. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to put some dubbing wax and just put a little bit on the thread. Doesn't take a whole lot. This is just to hold a material we're going to use that I like to use. It gives it a little bit more flash and a little bit more color. I'm going to use some, this is Hairline Ice Dub. This is a Midnight Fire. It's red, blue, and black. And it really kind of lights things up. When I pull out of the container, I'm going to pull out a good-sized chunk of this Midnight Fire. When I pull it out, and you can see it's all, it's just a big ball of material. What I'm going to do is separate this by pulling it all from the side and stacking it. This is just lining up all of the material. That's funny. It's lining it up to where it's all kind of lined up one direction. Okay. And then I can put that material in the dubbing loop and see how it's lined up. Now I can spread that evenly and kind of stretch it out up and down on both sides to where it's coming out horizontally to the thread that's vertical. So, and does it have to be perfect? No. Is it going to make a mess? Pretty much. And you don't really care, because what this is going to do is make your fly look buggy. I'm going to go ahead and use a shepherd's hook. I'm going to hook my thread, my dubbing loop, and then I'm going to twist this. And what twisting does is it creates a rope. It's pinning that material inside two pieces of thread. So having done that, I can frizz this out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and spin it a little bit more, make it a little tighter. There we go. And I'm going to kind of pluck out any loose ones and kind of just make them come out one direction. I can spin it then. They'll be going the other direction. I'm just going to pull them all back. See how I'm pulling the fibers, and I'm preening them all one direction. I'm going to go ahead and wrap that, covering all of my thread wraps behind the eye. And I should finish right at the head. Okay, here we go. And then I'm just going to throw a couple thread wraps over the top of that. Trim it. Okay. And you can see my My backdrop fell away. And then I'm just going to put a little collar here, and I'm using black thread. You could use a little hotspot collar, whatever your preference would be. But you can see that kind of, when you kind of pluck it out and string it, if those get too long, you can trim them down a little bit. Now I'm just going to whip finish. Pull it tight. Trim. There we go. And then you can use head cement on this. Head cement will seep in to the thread pretty well. I'm going to use some Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. I find that works as good as any head cement I get, and it's a little cheaper. I do like other types of head cement, but I found this is very durable, and it soaks in real nice. Now, if you look at that fly, it's going to wiggle. Once that leather gets wet and the rabbit gets wet, it's going to wiggle and spin. The body's got a real nice color. I'm going to zoom back in, and you can start seeing this fly for what it is. The fly's got a rainbow color. Then you've got the blues and the blacks. You've got a little hair over the top. Like I said, if this is too long and it's starting to impair the motion, you can trim it down a little bit. You can do that on stream. I keep with me a boomerang tool. They're scissors. That's what I use as nippers. So I'm also able to use it as scissors, and it works real well. Again, my name is Bill Frangos. You can find me at FishGod1 on YouTube. I welcome comments, and hope to see you again, and hope you subscribe as well to the channel. I do have some good beginner videos on there, and we'll be continuing to add some flies as we go along, as I tie them. Thank you. Have a good day.